Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm your host, Juan Ayala, and this is Actors with Issues. Hello, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends. Welcome to another episode of Actors with Issues, where we talk shop with guests from TV, film, and Broadway. Today's guest is a star quickly on the rise. You know him as the good boy, gone bad, gone back to good, Caesar from 4 seasons of On My Block, as the badass Nero, the Knight of Athena in Knights of the Zodiac, and he'll be back on the big screen in the upcoming crime thriller Bad Hombres, where he plays Felix, an undocumented immigrant who is on the run. Please welcome the delightful Diego Tinoco. Diego, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really love that introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't even realize. I was like, oh shoot, yeah, I did do Knights of the Zodiac, and I, usually everyone's like Caesar from my block, but now we have the great Phoenix Knight in there, so
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah, you've got an awesome film career already sort of coming up. It was really before we dive in, I just wanted to say, On My Black has a very special place in my heart. It is the first English language series that I ever wrote a review for. As
Mm,
a journalist, I was previously only
wow.
doing like reviews for telenovelas and things in Spanish,
Mm.
and I had to like beg my editor, I'm like, can I please talk about this show? It's got this wonderfully diverse cast, it's funny, and and thankfully they said yes. So I was very happy to be able to review it. But yeah, On My
Oh,
Block will always have
nice.
that title.
Very cool. Oh, cool. Well, I hope it's a good review.
Oh, I adored it, man. I mean, you guys
I'm
ran
teasing.
for 4 seasons, on a
Yeah,
really tough streaming service. Like, I feel like things get
yeah,
axed left and right on Netflix. So for you guys to go
yeah.
4 seasons was like a marvel in and of itself.
Yeah, 4 incredible years, and that was kind of like my college.
Hmm.
Came out of Corona, California, moved to Los Angeles, and did that for 4 years. And I'll always look back on those days as, man, the good old days.
Yeah,
Those were like my dorm days, right, with Brett, Sierra, and Jason.
yeah.
Made some great memories.
And then looking back on that journey, again, your 4 years, four seasons of your lives.
Mm,
How did you come out of that a changed man? Well, who was Diego day one of season one compared to the
yeah.
last day on season four?
I think when I started my first day on set, I was so nervous all of the time. I just kept feeling like I was going to do something wrong and get fired and, just lose my job, right? This position that I've worked so hard to get. And it wasn't so much season four when it hit me, it was more so season two, where I learned to trust myself as an artist.
Mm.
I was like, you know what, man, I've done the work. I deserve to be here. I've put in the work. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's not by chance. I mean, yes, a slight dose of all of that. Yes, absolutely. But I did work very, very hard in my craft, in my auditions, and all of that stuff to get to where I am. And I guess sort of taking that ownership was one of the biggest differences that I saw in myself from season one to season two, three, and four. But I guess the very last day of season four, when I left the show, one thing that I did notice that was different was this ability to be able to play with the work and and uh, and sort of just enjoy myself when I wasn't in the work, if
Mm.
that makes sense. I feel like, especially for young actors, sometimes we're in the work and we feel like we always have to be in that headspace 24/7. And
Yeah.
if we're not in that headspace, that we're not doing our diligence, our work as an actor into the craft. And teach their own, but I think that method for myself at least takes a toll, and it just leaves me so drained all the time. So
Yeah.
when I'm in the work, I'm in the work, and when I'm not, I just forget about it. And I want to, I have my private life as well to live too.
Right.
I can't just be in the character all of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, there's so many different like, acting techniques and methods and ways of performing and whatnot. And I find that that's not always the hell. Of course, it depends on the character. If they're a joyful character, sure, stay in that. But if
Yeah,
it's a dark
yeah,
role, you want to take a break and lift that off a little bit. But if it helps people I'm not going to tell Daniel Day-Lewis how to act. He gets
yeah.
amazing
Right.
performances, but he's
Yeah,
got
exactly.
years in between movies because he's probably so exhausted from 6 months of being that.
Hey,
You
you're
know.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. You're right. It does take a toll on you. And listen, I'm not saying we're over here saving lives and we're not breaking our backs here. For some movies you might be in your stunt work. But at the end of the day, I want to put out the best possible work. And I want to have longevity in my career. And I think it's very important that everyone understands how they work and what's best for their method, right? So take and pull from each and every method and see what ultimately works for you. So for myself, I like to get into the zone of the character maybe an hour or maybe 30 minutes before, right? If it's a really dark scene, I'll put in my music, I'll walk around set, I'll be by myself, I'll be isolated, I'll let everybody know. I'll be like, hey man, like, I have a really dark scene. If I seem a little off, it's nothing personal. It's just I'm in the zone. And everyone's like, yeah, do your thing, man. Don't worry about it. And as soon as we finish that up, boom, I'm out of the scene, and I'm back into myself. At the end of the day, this industry, it's not just about putting out the best work. Yes, that is the priority, but again, in this industry, it's about people. Nobody wants to work with an asshole on set 24/7 who's like slowing down production and giving everybody a headache. So at the end of the day, I want to do my work as an artist, but I also want to be I want to leave a mark on set as a good person, somebody who was nice to be around, a good time to be around, who made them feel you know positive in their spirits. Because being on a set's a lot of hours, and there's a lot of hard work on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure they're having they feel seen, that they feel heard, that they feel part of the family. And
Yeah.
I hope I do that in my work.
For sure, it's always good to have that mindset. Just be like, when people talk about you, whether they're doing press or just reflecting on a project, like you
Hmm.
want them to be like, oh yeah, they were so cool to work with. You don't want them to be like, oof, piece of work. Buyer
Yeah,
beware.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And with an actor's career, there are so many peaks and valleys and whatnot. There's the
Mhm.
high points, and then when projects wrap, you're sort of eager for whatever's next, but there's not always another project waiting. So, I'm curious, was there ever a time? I'm curious, maybe if this was after On My Block or before, but was there a time that you figured like, okay, I gave this a shot, things aren't
Mm,
happening the way I wanted,
mm.
maybe this was it, or did you always know
Oh
like you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to just carry forward and keep going?
I think when I first started acting and I was 16 years old and I was like going to auditions left and right for Disney Channel, for Nickelodeon, I think there was certainly those doubtful thoughts in my mind. And it's funny, I was actually looking through my drafts in my email, one of my first emails. I have like 20, one of my first emails. And I remember seeing a draft and I was writing a message to my manager and I was saying, "Hey guys, I really appreciate all the auditions that you guys have been getting for me. However, that being said, I don't think this career is for me. I think I'm just gonna not make the move to LA, and I think I'm just gonna stay out here. And I just wanted to say sorry for wasting your guys' time." And I remember writing that, and I remember sending it to my best friend, and my best friend said, "Dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is for you. You love acting. You're great at it, and this is what you dedicate all your time and your mind into. So why would you send that? Like, you have an agent, you have a manager. Why? People would essentially, man, they would kill for to get representation. At that time, it was a lot harder to get reps because you had to be in Los Angeles, right, or at least nearby. So I didn't send the email, and I moved to LA with that friend, and and then yeah, I'm really thankful that to have that sort of I guess support. I've had I wish I could just say that I did this all by myself, and to a certain degree, I guess I did, but I had such an amazing support team. I had my best friend to move out to Los Angeles with me. I had an incredibly supportive brother, two brothers who were incredibly supportive father, supportive mother. You know, they always rooted for me. They always cheered me on, and I don't think I could have done it without that. But yeah, there was certainly a time where I was like, man, fuck. I was like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if this career is for me. It seems impossible to break into. But then the show took off, and we've been busy since. And yeah, now we're just trying to start producing and writing our own stuff now because you know that's the next step, I think.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. Was if there are other facets of the industry that you want to dive into? Is there a particular genre that you want to tackle that you haven't done yet, whether it's as a writer, director, or as an actor?
So I would at this point in my career and at this point in my I guess my life, I don't want to direct. I don't want to step into that. I think there's already enough like talented directors that I want to work with and I want to be a part of their collaboration. So to want to to want to start directing, I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice because I would have to start from scratch, and then I'm in love with acting. I want to act and I want to write. I love writing, so I definitely want to step into writing and I want to step into producing. And yeah, I have a horror film right now that we're doing. We're trying to pitch it out of big studios, and we have some meetings coming up. But yeah, it's a really fun horror film, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to life.
Yeah, there's not enough Latinos in horror movies. I've noticed this. It's we're not in a lot, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
spooky Latino lore out there that would make great horror movies. Like
No, you're bullseye. Exactly. That's exactly what we have. The project that we have, half of it's in Spanish, half of it's in English. Right now, we have half the funding ready. We have some really big names attached, and the only thing we're really trying to we're trying to get right is the director. We don't have the director yet, so we want to make sure we're doing the project. We want to make sure we're serving the story right and we're
yeah,
bringing the story to life because, like you just said, it's a Latin it's like a Latin lore film. So it's really important that we get all the pieces of the puzzle right on this
yeah,
project.
yeah, for sure. You want to make sure that it's our people telling the story
Yeah,
as
exactly.
authentically, especially when it's like based in in sort of
And
our
and and also, why not? Because I'm
yeah
producing the project, so why would I? We have to take accountability in this industry. We always talk that we want change, we want to see change, we want to make change happen. But then when it comes down to it, I'm not going to point fingers or anything. But a lot of people, they keep on the same trajectory and they don't make the effort to make the change. So I'm like, well, if that I'm producing this project, I want a Latino director, or I want that.
mm,
Why? Because I porque puedo, porque lo puedo hacer.
yeah
uh, I just signed a book deal with a big publishing company, and we had a lot of writers and authors get presented, and then they presented this Colombian writer. Her name's I'll keep her name disclosed for right now, but
mm,
I was like, hey, your work's amazing. How come nobody's giving you that first shot? Like, what the heck? I'm curious. Like, don't take this wrong. I'm just curious. Like, how come you haven't written something huge? Because your work's phenomenal. And she replied, and she's like, "Well, in Colombia, it's really hard for us writers, especially being a woman, especially being Latin, to get that first big break, to get our foot in the door."
yeah
And I was like, "Well, f that. I like your work the best, and you're a great person, and I want this opportunity to be yours." So I hired her as a collaborator on the novel, and we're working on that right now.
dude, you got so much in the work. That's so awesome. That's really really cool to see because um I had the great privilege of having Eugenio Derbez on our show,
Oh,
and
cool! I
and
just met him the other day. He's a great guy.
oh, did you? He's a
Yeah.
gem of a human. I adore that man. He
Yeah.
he said that his whole career in life turned around when he stopped waiting for the next job and
Mm,
started creating his own opportunity. Like, he's had
mm.
multiple shows, De vez en cuando and all these shows that I feel like we all
Yeah.
grew up watching and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, he produces his own movies. His movie
Hmm.
Radical, I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
His latest film, like he's such a trailblazer. I think that he's a phenomenal person to
Mm.
look up to because he's created those opportunities for himself. He's like, look, I'm not a leading man. I get that. I'm funny. I'm a
Mm.
goofball. So we're gonna do that and just sort of
Yeah.
let that seep into everything.
I literally went up to him. We were at Jessica Alba's house at a party celebrating La Cultura. I think it was Dia de los Muertos.
Mm,
And I'm looking around. I see Selma Hayek. I see Robert Rodriguez. I see all of these legends who have really just inspired me to feel confident in my own skin, especially in an industry where we're not the most represented, you could say.
right.
And I see in the corner, I see Eugenio Derbez, and he's standing alongside Michael Pena, and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know who to go up to. But at the time, I was watching a lot of Acapulco,
Yeah.
and incredible show on Apple TV. It's such an amazing show. And I go up to him, and I tell him, Eugenio, you know, I'm probably your biggest fan here. I love your work. I love your work ethic, and I thank you for everything that you've done for me, even though you probably don't even know. But man, just watching your work on the big screen has like inspired me to really stay on track and always put out the best possible work. And then at the end, I was like, "Can I get a selfie?" and he's like a selfie expert, dude. He's like a
Yeah.
selfie expert. He grabs my phone he tries to take a selfie, and he's like, "It's un poco sucio," and he gets like a little cleaning thing, and he's like, and he starts cleaning it, and then we take like a selfie, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It was definitely a top 10 moment in this industry that I'll always be able to remember.
Yeah. And with Bad Hombres, which is the next film of yours that's set to come out, what can you tell us about it? There's not too much information out there. I know it's. I did get to
Yeah.
watch a bit of it. I did get a screener,
Oh,
but
cool.
without getting into spoilers, what can you tell our listeners about it?
Bad Hombres. It's a story about my character. His name's Felix. He's young Ecuadorian coming into the States, immigrant, and he comes in hopes of a better life, you can say, as most of our ancestors did, right? Our fathers or grandparents and so on. They came to this country and searched for a better life, more opportunity to provide for the families back home or the families that came with them. And along this journey, he found that sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side, and it might even be a little psychotic. And
Yeah.
he gets himself mixed up with, the wrong people, and it becomes a story about survival.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really exciting. It was one of my first films I did after on my block, and yeah, it's my first film in Spanish as well. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that went.
And so we have a segment we call for every episode it changes because it depends on the guest. So this one's called Dear Diego. It's a
Mm.
question submitted by some of our listeners and fans. So Seth
Cool.
asks, how do you keep a healthy work-life balance when you're in between projects? Do you try to stay
Yeah.
productive during your downtime or do you just try to relax?
That's a great question. That's a really important question. I think we see in this industry, we see a lot of artists kind of destroy themselves mentally or physically or emotionally when they're in between projects. They get into a lot of trouble. That's something that I've studied. I wouldn't say so much my peers, but people in this industry amongst the same age as me, or maybe from the '90s or 2000s, whatever.
Mm.
But I make sure I made it a goal that anytime I was in between projects, I would stay occupied, whether it was jujitsu, whether it was boxing, martial arts training, hitting the gym, writing, um, opening up an acting studio. I just opened up an online acting
Yeah.
studio for young kids all around the world from anywhere in the world to essentially start their acting careers. And yeah, for me, it's very important when I'm not working on a project to be focused in on something. So whether it's a podcast, right? I have to stay occupied, otherwise I will be getting into I will be getting into a little bit of trouble if I'm not, and I'll be doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing. So yeah, it's important for me to stay disciplined and stay on the right track. And I'm 26 years old. I just turned 26. I have all the time and energy in the world. I'd be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't creating something.
Mm.
Right at the end of it all, I want to look back and be like, dude, I did it. I did what I wanted to do. I was working. I built this, built that, and I hopefully I impacted lives for the better. And at the end of the day, that's all I want. Now, is there such thing as burnout? Absolutely, there is. I thought it was a myth. I was like, man, I don't get burnout. Like I'm good. I could work 365 all day long. Just recently, actually, like last week, um, I was like, man, I've been working for the last 3 months straight, like teaching, acting, writing, this, that. I was like, and I haven't had a break. I was like, I actually feel like exhausted mentally. Like I couldn't even formulate sentences. Like even right now, I'm like still in the like getting out of that burnout that I had. Um, and I used to think I was like, man, I could just go to sleep, watch a movie, I'll be back to 100. Um, I think it's important to sort of step away from the work, whether again, everybody's different. So whether you need a day, a week, whatever, I think it's important to take that step back from the work.
Mm.
Find your point break, right? And see where you need that break, because when you take that step back, you're able to look and see what you've done, what you've created, where you made a mistake, where it was like really good. Because sometimes we're so close to the picture that we can't really see it on the bigger scale, and I think that could actually do more harm than good, right? It's like imagine being a baseball player and or a boxer, right? Imagine being a boxer and you never study your technique, you never study your tape, you never study the footage in your previous fights. It's like, well, you're gonna keep making those mistakes over and over and over again. Doesn't matter what somebody's telling you. If you don't see it, you're going to be like, oh, shoot, that's what I'm doing wrong. Okay, that's why coach was telling me to keep my left hand up and do this and that. Yeah, it's really important to take a step back from the work occasionally and see what's working, see what's not working, and why.
Yeah, I think that it's super important. Nobody knows you better than yourself. So knowing like what your limits are and all of that. I feel like, there was a year that I was working a full-time job. I had great reps who were getting me a ton of auditions, but like I worked at a gym, so I would come home after working like 5 a.m. to 2, opening up the gym, and then have to memorize like 10 pages by tomorrow. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
this is not working.
Oh,
I had
100%.
to
Yeah.
just, you just have to sort of like take a second, engage, and be like, I have energy for
Yep.
this, or like I need a
Yeah.
week off
Yeah.
of no auditions or something, because
No,
it's
yeah.
so easy to burn out.
Even, dude, even if it's just like a nap. The other day, I live with my girlfriend. We live together now, and I was telling her, I was like, because I had a really important director session for this huge project that I'm crossing my fingers. It'd be a dream to work with them. Um, but before, just like you, I woke up like 7 a.m., hit the gym. I was prepping up all day, and I remember looking at her. I was like, I'm so tired. I was like I could drink coffee right now and wing it, yes,
Yeah.
but I think I'm literally gonna take like a 30-minute nap, recharge. And she was like, "Oh my God, you're taking a nap for once in your life. Like that's interesting. I never take naps." And yeah, I took a nap, dude, and it just recharges you, right?
Mhm.
That silence, that stillness of just like being able to breathe, whether it's a meditation, whatever you need. Everybody's process is different. Figure out what works for you, what you need, and do it. It might be silly to others. Who cares what others think? If it works for you and it helps you put out the best work and it keeps you sane and here and healthy in your body, then do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And Jamie from Reddit asks, is there anything about being an actor that you think people misunderstand?
I, I think one of the biggest misconceptions or I guess things that people misunderstand. At least I can only speak on my experience of how I used to view the entertainment industry in Hollywood and actors' lives. I used to think that they were perfect, right? I was like, oh, you're an actor in Hollywood, you're perfect. Whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, financially, whatever, you're set. You don't have any problems at all. Your life is a fairy tale, and yeah, that's absolute nonsense. That's completely false. I think we've been able to see the some of the effects of that illusion of perfect actually turn into chaos. And I used to think that Hollywood could fix anything as far as like the make, whether it was the makeup team, whether it was like having a movie come out. That's absolute nonsense. I think we all have problems. Obviously, the problems change, obviously, but we're human beings. We still have wants, we still have needs, we still have desires, we still have demons that we're battling every single day, whether it's temptation for something or whether it's substance abuse or whether it's not being able to you know uh, tame certain habits. Like we're all human beings, and if you don't structure your life with a little bit of or a lot of bit of discipline and a solid foundation, those bad habits will eat you alive. And no amount of press, no amount of publicity or movies or red carpets or fame or whatever will resolve those issues. Those issues get resolved in here and in private. So yeah, that's one big misconception, misunderstanding that I always used to think about when I was little. I was like, you're a movie star, your life's perfect. It's like, well, behind the curtain, we see the truth, and that truth can be messy if you don't take care of it.
And Andy asks, what was the most challenging part during your training or filming process for Knights of the Zodiac?
I think the most, man, honestly, this is again, like these are all problems I'm blessed to have. I don't want to like go on a rant and say like, oh my God, it was so hard, because I wouldn't trade this career for absolutely anything in the world. Um, but the thing that really was the hardest for me was the flying to Budapest and the time change. Just being out there and having my people, my family, all my friends and close ones back home, and I was going to sleep out there and they were waking up, and they were going to sleep out here, and then I was waking up, and it was just the schedule was terrible for me. And I hated the feeling of being so far away from the people I love, the people that give me strength, the people that motivate me every single day. And if I were to redo it, I think I would fly out, whether it was a friend or girlfriend or my mother. I think I would need them out there because it gets a little isolating and a little lonely, and you just like kind of lose your marbles a little bit. But at the same time, it's kind of fun because it's like you plug it into the work. I had my dad on set with me, but he was always traveling and visiting places. I take him to every movie set, and he always has a blast. So that was a challenge, absolutely. And another challenge would have to be, I guess, the physical training, the stunt training. It was my first time doing like stunt work and all that stuff, and I had a blast doing the stunt training. However, once that 60-pound metal armor suit came on, and I had to put it on and become the Phoenix Knight, all of that training went out the window. It was like really hard to even so much as like throw a kick and be 12 hours, 14 hours in that metallic suit.
Yeah.
It was a challenge, yeah. But nevertheless, problems I'm blessed to have. I loved it.
If you could go back and probably add a weighted vest to your workout just to get used
Yeah.
to like 20
Literally,
pounds,
yeah, yeah.
25 pounds maybe.
Just to prep me up. No, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And you touched a bit on the Actors Campus, which, as you said before, is your new online acting studio. So, what motivated you to start that amongst all of the projects, the other stuff you've got going on? What motivated you to get that started?
Had the COVID pandemic. We had the writer's strike. We had the actors strike. Among all of that, I was shooting projects, then that got canceled. I was pitching projects to studios, then that got canceled. And I was like, what the heck do I do? Like, again, I
Mhm.
have to stay productive. I have to build something as an individual. Like if I'm not creating something productive or artistic, then I'm creating chaos in my life, unfortunately. Something I'm working on. And I think the question that kept coming into my day-to-day routine was, how do I become an actor? Whether it was a fan on the street or whether it was at an event, whether it was online, my comments on Instagram DMs, whatever, TikTok, all of that stuff. The number one question that I kept getting asked was, how do I become an actor? I want to do what you did. How can
Yeah.
I do it? And it never really hit me until this year, when I was like, this is the same exact question that I had when I was starting off, that I wish somebody that I admired and looked up to would answer. Just tell me the layout. And I never had that. So I was like, how can I answer that question? How can I help others from all around the world? And at the end of the day, I did a show where a lot of Latinos saw themselves, especialmente jóvenes, very young Latinos who saw themselves in my character or in myself, maybe, right? And a lot of them were like, "Man, how did you do it?" And I don't care how Natalie Portman did it or Samuel Jackson did it, because they also have a master class, right? So they
Right.
could just they
Yeah.
could have just gone to the master class. I will say they don't really teach you how to break into the industry, but they teach you more so on the craft.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if they want to hear it from me, then let it be. I'm going to make a course, and I want an online community, and I want to help others from all around the world. It costs me 1 hour a week, and it just changes everything for them, because now they do have the opportunity. Now they have a showcase in the community that I built, where they're performing in front of big agencies, big management companies. They have the resources to contact headshot photographers and get a
Mhm.
good discount rate. They have the blueprint, essentially. It's like, I want to say it's like 4 hours of myself just talking about specifics of the industry. It's like, but again, it's something that if you live in like Kansas City or Nebraska or wherever you live, you're going to be like, oh, I can't do it. It's only for people who live in Los Angeles. That's 100% false.
Yeah.
100% false. Everything is digital now. Everything is online. I just met with a huge director the other day, and it was on Zoom just like this, and it was
Yeah.
like I could have been anywhere in the globe. Um, so yeah, I guess a bit of it was to just stay occupied, stay out of trouble, but most importantly, it was just to help others all around the world. And again, at the end of the day, when my time comes, I just want to make sure I left an impact and helped out as many people as I could.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. You know, because lots of, like you said, so there's lots of resources out there, things like Masterclass, which, and I did watch Natalie Portman's and Samuel, you know, I watched
Yeah, and I
the
loved it.
filmmaking
Yeah, it was
ones and they
just
were
yeah,
great. But like you said,
yeah,
they teach you more about the craft and their own
yeah,
career versus like how do you go in today. That's the reason I started this podcast was because I wanted to talk to, you know, I've talked to, you know, some industry veterans, like I mentioned, Eugenio, we've had like Patrick Wilson on the show and
wow,
some great actors who have been in this industry for a long time, but also like younger stars who are working on their first film or it's like their
yeah,
breakout role and they can talk about like, yeah, 2 years ago I was asking those same questions of like,
yeah,
you know, what website? There's like 50 casting websites to sign up for. They're like, which
yeah,
one
no,
do I
exactly.
choose?
Yeah,
You know, is Backstage legit? Yes, it is. Go. You use Backstage, use Actors
yeah,
Access, use, you know, all that stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, it's like there's because there's so much information out there for like actors, young actors especially get overwhelmed. They're like, where do I go? So giving them that sort of
yeah.
template of like just start here is a great thing, you know.
Exactly. Start here. Listen to any young actor watching this. I don't care if you join my acting studio, but just whatever you do, two things: never pay your agents a fee. It's a commission
Upfront.
fee. If
Okay.
you make money, then they make money. But don't ever like pay them $2,000 to represent you,
Yeah.
and don't ever pay for a $10,000 showcase. That's I the reason. Another reason why I made the program was because I went to New York a long time ago, and I bumped into this actor friend of mine, and or no, he was a non-actor friend, and his little sister was like going into a showcase that was like $10,000 because she wanted to be an actor.
Mm.
And I was like, holy shit. I was like, dude, $10,000, you can make a short film with that much money.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
man, like Robert Rodriguez did it for less. He did it like $6,000. He made like El Mariachi.
Yeah.
So I that broke my heart to hear. And I was like, man, I was like, that's I hate to say it, but whether it's legit or not, like you could have there's better options out there. And yeah. So that's essentially what we provide. We provide a community. They have access to myself. If they ever have a question on a studio being legit, anything being legit, they can hit me up on there. I answer back in like 24 hours. Again, we have the video lessons. We just had casting director Alan Luna on there describing the
Mm.
casting process of how they accept actors, submissions, headshots, the casting everything. We had Julio Macias on there talk about his process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just trying to give insight from every angle. At the end of the day, I can't do it for them. I wish I could. I wish I could go like this and everyone's successful, but it's an industry where it's like going to school for being a doctor or becoming a firefighter. No, I'm not saying we're saving lives here. Um, but I am saying that it does require structure. It requires hard work, and it's not going to happen overnight. But if you stay consistent, the one thing that I have noticed, it's those who stay consistent in this industry and keep putting up and keep showing up and keep putting up their best work. Those are the
Mhm.
ones who get that opportunity. They're at the right place, the right time, with the right mind, and then
Yeah.
boom, their life freaking changes. And it doesn't happen overnight. There's the famous saying, it's like it took me 5 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
And I think that's very true. However, I think nowadays with social media, I think a lot of young people, they want it now, they want it tomorrow, and they don't want to wait. And like, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
If that's how you think it works, then go take out all your life savings, take out a loan, and put it on red at a casino because like you have better odds at doing that. It's
Yeah.
not how it works, and I'll be the first one to say it. This industry is very, very hard. It's very cruel. It doesn't care whether how you feel or whatever. It goes with the artist who puts in the best work, and not even then. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if you did the best job. You might
Yeah.
have had the best read ever, but for some reason they might go with a different direction. You
Mhm.
have to have tough skin. You have to be able to take rejection. You have to be able to keep going and have that again, that discipline.
You're just speaking truth, man. That's seriously, there's so much, again, there's so much information out there and there's also so much misinformation. So getting it from your
Yeah,
perspective and you incorporating, you
yeah,
mentioned Julio, your co-star from on
yeah.
my block, you know, and getting his experience and cast directors. That's
Mm.
such a great thing you've built. So congrats on that firstly. And if anyone listening wants to
Thanks.
get info, where can they find more information?
It's on my Instagram, just in my bio. The Actors Campus also has an Instagram. It's called Actors Campus.
Mm.
Link in bio. Shameless plug. And yeah, it's thediegotinoco.com. Just go there, check it out. And again, it's month by month. It's like I think like $30. So if you're familiar, I'm sure you're familiar with acting classes. Acting classes are
Oh
like
yeah.
400 to $500, maybe $800 for a seminar. it's insane, and
Yeah.
it's I personally I couldn't afford that when I first started off. So
Yeah.
I'm like, F that. I want to create something that anybody from anywhere around the world can afford. And whether you hop in there for a month, hop in there, download everything, learn everything, and then get out. And then now you have a solid foundation. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to keep these people in my studio forever. I just want them there. Eventually, I want to work with these students, right? I want to bump into them on a set one day and then be like, dude, I took your class. And I could be like,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Like, that's, I don't know. That makes me happy. It puts a smile on my face. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this is a part of the show we call the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's where we get sort of get to delve a bit more into what we like about the industry, what we don't like about it, things we wish
Yeah.
would just go away. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious because you've been in the industry before, since before the pandemic. I feel like it's sort of like a
Yeah.
starting point for people. It's like with, I'm such a nerd.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, it's like
Yeah.
before the Battle of Yavin or after, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
pre-COVID or during. Um,
Yeah.
do you miss auditioning in person or do you prefer the flexibility of self-tapes?
Absolutely love self tapes.
Yeah,
100%. I think
same.
I personally I'll tell you why I like it, and I'll tell you why I think it's better. I think for myself, I so I moved out of Los Angeles and I bought a house in Corona, California now. So this is my hometown. I love it. When I need to be in Los Angeles, I'll drive out there. But man, I wish I had this starting off because I remember making those drives, 2 hour drives there for 15 or 10 minute audition, three
Yeah.
hour drive back, and being told no over and over and over and over again. It was really hard financially. It was really hard emotionally, mentally, all that stuff. And and I think it's incredible now that anybody from anywhere around the world has a fair shot at their dream. Yes, you're gonna need to make your self-tape studio. You're gonna need good mics. You're gonna need a good, computer screen and laptop and all that stuff.
Backdrops,
Yeah,
everything.
exactly, exactly. But I promise you, some people might complain, be like, "Oh, well, it takes money." Well, it sure as hell will take money too if you have to live in LA, pay for your rent, pay for your food, pay for this, that,
Yeah.
your gasoline, then that parking ticket that you get on Sunset Boulevard. It's like, I would
Yeah.
rather pay for the equipment and do it at home. Um, so I personally I like it better. Is there cons to it? Absolutely. You don't get to meet the casting director. They don't get to see you in person and kind of get to connect with somebody on a human level. But I will say this: casting directors are able to see. They're able to see more people now
Way more. Yeah.
because back then it was you get a 10 minute slot and you had to make that time and there's only so many hours in a day. But now it's like they get their tapes. They get hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of tapes, right? And they can view them all from home, right?
Mhm.
They don't have to rent out the studio. They don't have to rent out and lease the complex or whatever. Now they're saving money. Everyone's saving money,
Right.
time, and I think we've seen some incredible performances break out of self tapes and this casting process. I mean, just look at Netflix since 2020 to now, present day. Most of the breakout stars on these hit series came from self tapes,
Mhm.
most of them, and they're amazing. They're brilliant actors, and I don't know. I'm a fan of self tapes. Do I
Yeah.
miss the in person stuff? Not really. No.
Yeah, for me, I've told this story in the podcast before, so for those of you listening, sorry you're hearing it again. But like my first reps were based in Atlanta and I lived in New York, so I never had in person. So by the time COVID came around, I was like, well, I've already got a ring light and a backdrop and all that stuff, so I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, put ring lights on back order
Yeah.
on Amazon
Yeah.
because of a shortage. Um, and but the thing I love about self tapes the most as well is that you get to take your time and submit your best take and your best work.
Yeah.
You get to put on your director hat and be like, "Ooh, I see this. Let me submit this one."
Yeah.
Versus when you're in a casting director's office, you're
Yeah.
sweaty, you're
Yeah.
frustrated, you try not to get
Nervous. You
parking.
get two takes.
Yeah, if that. Sometimes it's like one
If
and done.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yep.
Next. And
Exactly.
I always use this as an example, like, like there's only so many ways you can say, "Here's your check" for the one line co-star of being a waiter. It's
Yeah.
like you did that whole trip for that, and sometimes
Yeah.
sure it's a series regular, you've got three
Yeah.
scenes to work through, but
No, I hear
I
you.
just think it's so much more flexible to do it from home, and it allows
I hear
actors to
you.
get real jobs and
Yeah.
not have to work as a waiter or bartender because you're not trying to have your days
Absolutely.
free. It's
Yeah.
just it makes actors life easier,
You're absolutely right. Everything you just said is spot on. To the actor watching this, I will say treat your workspace the way, treat your craft the way you want to be, treat your profession the way you want to be treated, right? If you
Mm.
half-ass it, if you do a half-ass audition, half-ass background tape, whatever, lighting, it's gonna read, right? If you barely memorize your lines, if you're trying to wing it, like that's all gonna read. So that's one thing I will say with self tapes, like really put in the work.
Mm.
You got the audition. You already That's a W right there alone. Casting wants to see you audition. Take
Yeah.
that as a win. And now the secret is to, like you just said, be the director, have fun with it, and bring it to life the
Mm.
way you want to bring it to life, not the way you think they want to see it, because that's how everyone else is doing it. Bring it to life the way that brings you the most joy and the way that you're like, holy shit, I made a little movie right now. Like, hey, babe, you want to see it? Hey, dude, you want to? Let me send you this little audition I did. It's kind of like a short film. Those are the auditions that you'll have fun on, and I promise you'll get a call back on, and you will book.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much guesswork involved in our careers and whatnot that having that as like surefire, like this will work. Whether you don't book it or not, it's like it at least gets you're on their radar, you got their attention, you might get a
Yeah,
call back, they might have you do something else or call you back for
yeah,
another role. That happens all the
yeah,
time.
all
I've
the time.
auditioned for the same show like 4 or 5 times because casting's trying to
Yeah,
see, ooh, not that one. What about
yeah.
this one? To just try and see what sticks. And that's like the best compliment an actor can get is like, ooh, they want you, just
Mm-hmm.
not in this role.
You're absolutely right. That's the best compliment you could get. Yeah.
And so we mentioned before the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we've talked about a lot about like sort of the struggles and whatnot and the challenges that have come with a
Mm-hmm.
career. What is something that you love about acting, about the entertainment industry?
Man, this industry is so silly. It's so funny and awkward, and like it's you're on a set and it's just like being a big little kid. Even the director, right? The director is playing make believe over here. He's creating his own little universe. It's like being a kid again. And the best way I can describe it, I grew up my whole life, from the time I was 9 years old to the time I was like 16, 17, at a skate park, skateboarding 24/7, making
Mm.
short films with my friends, and just having this this feeling of not having a sense of time. Time completely vanishes. You're just in the moment. You're present. You're having fun. You're creating art with your friends. And I think the best thing for me is it just makes me so human. It makes me feel so human. It makes me feel like it just makes me feel alive. Anytime I leave a day on set and I go back home, I'm like, that was a day.
Mm.
Like that was a that was a day. From the time I showed up, even if it was 4 a.m. and I had boogers in my eyes and all of that, like, and I forgot to brush my teeth and I had to ask for two, like all the little headaches that happen, right? Like, man, all of that stuff. When you walk away from it at the day, you put your heart onto the and you left it all on the table on a scene, whatever that scene was, however small or big, like just that feeling of leaving set, and you're just like, man, that was a fucking day. That was thank you God for you know letting that be my life for whether it was just today or whether this is my last day, whatever. Like that was a day. So that feeling internally and then
Mm.
externally would have to be just like meeting so many different people from all around the world and
Mm.
hearing their stories and and just creating memories with others. Some of my closest friends now are people that I've met on sets, whether they were on the sound department, the lighting department,
Mm.
whether they were a grip, a PA, producer, director, a writer. Like, it's just like being a little kid on the playground again, man. To be honest,
I'm curious when you'd come back to On My Block for a new season, did it feel like summer camp? Like, oh, I get to hang out with my friends for a few months all over again.
100%. Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah.
Just being on a summer camp and again creating art with your friends. Obviously, you got to put in work, and
Mm.
again, I think that work a lot of it is done in private. That way, you can celebrate it in public. At least that's my like saying for actors. It's like the public rewards you for what you do in private.
Mm.
Sorry, no, the public either rewards or slams you for what you do in private, right?
Mm.
So in your private time, if you're not studying, if you're not making those choices in your work and you're not rehearsing, then and it's gonna show on screen, and there's gonna be consequences for better or worse.
And in terms of the industry, is there anything that you wish we would just do away with? You're like, this is such an old mentality or old way of doing things. Let's get rid of it. I'm sure there's a laundry
Uh,
list of things.
there's a laundry list. I think the first one that probably comes to mind is just this AI situation. I think that's a little
Ah,
scary.
Yeah.
I think that's terrifying. I think inevitably technology is getting more and more advanced, and I think it's going to cause some bumps on the road and hurdles, and if it hasn't already,
Yeah.
I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg here, and I think I hate to say it, but I think it's going to get worse, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I hope to God that you know technology doesn't take our jobs, right? Because this is
Yeah.
such a unique industry, and it has been for the last 100 years. I think acting has really has really inspired people, has really left a mark in people's lives. And, at least for myself, I can speak on my own experience. I watched this movie called Lords of Dogtown when I was like, I think 9 years old, directed by Catherine Hardwicke. And I remember just seeing this film and feeling so empowered. I saw this
Mm.
like Latin dude on the screen. He was skateboarding, he had his curly hair, he was badass. His name, I forgot the actor's name in real life, but he played the legendary Tony Alva. And I remember seeing this movie. I was like, holy shit! Like I want to be like this person. I want to grow out my hair. I want to get on a skateboard. I want to do all this stuff. And literally for the next 7 years, 8 years of my life, I started skateboarding. I became a sponsored skateboarder. I wanted to go professional in skateboarding, and now some of the best memories of my life were skateboarding. So, we're not saving. I would say we're not saving lives here, but we are affecting lives tremendously. We have such a big impact, and yeah, I guess my biggest fear thing that I would X out would have to be AI.
Yeah.
It gets scary. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
During the strike and especially once they, released the details they could about the contract and everything, I tried to educate myself as much as I could. And like all
Yeah,
technology, there's good and there's bad. I think that there are the pros of AI of making filmmaking a bit easier and
sure.
whatnot, but then there are the scarier dark sides of, the it's crazy what the AMPTP was trying to get away with in terms of like, scanning you without compensation, using your likeness without anything, and
Yeah,
um just
it's
very
very
vague
scary.
word. I think that the gains we got were really good. I just think that the next time we have to renew in 3 years, I think
Yeah,
AI is going to grow so much during that time. Then that's really when like we're gonna have to
yeah,
hunker down and set up some guidelines. But I
yeah.
think that
No,
our
exactly.
union has our best interests in mind. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. We'll see in 3 years. We'll be having a conversation
yeah.
again. I'll be like, I told you, te dije.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up with our last segment called "It's Time for Life's Big Questions." So this is a very important question. If you could have any superpower, which would you choose?
Oh, it's a great question. Oh man, let's see. Any superpower, I think it would be, I mean, probably the ability to fly. That's just
Mm.
it's such a basic answer, but it's so cool, right? Like imagine just showing up to like your abuelita's birthday party and you're freaking flying. Is that Diego? Is Juan? And you just show up and yeah, it'd have to be flying. Um, yeah, flying.
Mm.
I'm a big Superman fan too, so
Yeah.
that's like my childhood dream. One day, hopefully, one day I'll get to play like Latino Superman. That'd be badass.
What movie never fails to make you laugh?
uh, I would have to say Step Brothers.
Mm, that
It's
is a
such
good
a
choice.
great film. Yeah, it's so funny. It's so silly.
Are you a coffee person or a tea drinker?
Ooh, I love black tea. I love green tea. But my girlfriend just got me into coffee recently,
Mm.
so yeah, yeah. I'm turning into a coffee junkie now.
I mean, it's in our blood. I feel like we can't function
Yeah,
without a cafecito, like
yeah, exactly.
does pineapple belong on pizza?
I had a bad experience with pineapple on pizza,
Oh,
so
really?
I'm gonna have to say no. No, I got pineapple on my pizza when I was like in sixth grade, Papa John's, and I remember getting food poisoning from it. I didn't know if it was
Oh
the
man.
pineapple, if it was the pepperoni, whatever it was, but I was like, I'm never doing pineapple on my pizza ever again. So I'll have to say no.
What is the most spontaneous thing you've ever done?
Ooh, that's a great question. Spontaneous. Mm, man, I would like to say like, oh, I flew out to go to, we went to Paris and the Eiffel Tower and had roses Spontaneous. I don't know. Maybe it would have to be when I was like 6 years old or 7 years old. I remember I was a little kid and my mom would she was going to Ecuador. And I was with my dad and we were dropping her off. And I remember seeing her go up the elevator or the escalators and I just remember like I was like, I have to go with my mom. I have to go protect her. I was like 6 years
Mhm.
old, 7 years old. And I told my dad, I was like, me tienes que comprar un boleto ahorita mismo. Me quiero ir con ella. And my dad was like, ¿qué? He's like, ni tienes maleta. I'm like, papá, tengo que irme con ella. And then yeah, and then I remember hopping on a flight with my mother, 7 years old. No backpack, no nothing. And I just went with her just because I wanted to make sure that she was safe. Because yeah, I was just like, I have to be with her. I just have to be with her, you know?
Mhm. That's really sweet. That's such a you need to write that into something. That's such a movie moment, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what is your favorite theatrical performance that you've seen live?
Like in theater, like in Broadway.
Theater, concert, anything like that. Anything you've seen live. Favorite performance.
Uh, it's a great question. I just saw Phantom of the Opera, a
Oh, no
Broadway
way.
in 2022. I thought they did an amazing job. The actors were
Yeah.
were very talented, and I, yeah, that was my. I'll have to say that, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's such a an experience, theater, live
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being in New York, I'm a huge Broadway nerd. I get to see lots of shows, thankfully, because I get to interview lots of folks. So they're like, "Do you want to see the show?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I want to see the show before our interview." How am I
Nice.
going to talk about the show without seeing it? But yeah, I mean, Phantom's one of my favorite shows. I think that's one of the shows that inspired me to start doing musical theater
Nice.
when I was in high school and whatnot. And I was so bummed when the show closed this past year. But I mean, it was on Broadway for like 30 years or something. Like it was
Oh,
the
did it
longest running
close?
show in history.
Is
It
it not on
closed this
Broadway
past
anymore?
year.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I didn't know that. Oh,
you caught it
wonderful.
right before.
Oh man, so okay, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to know that I
Yeah.
saw at least once. Yeah, man.
If you could sit down and have dinner with any actor, dead or alive, who would it be?
Let's see, dead or what? Well, I don't know. I get scared to meet my idols. I get really scared. I've met a few of them. I met a few of them. Some of them I'm like, oh my God, I wish I never met you. But others have been like amazing.
Yeah.
I think uh, probably Al Pacino or
Mhm.
DiCaprio. Yeah, I'm a huge
Mhm.
DiCaprio fan. I mean, his work speaks for itself, right? But yeah, probably DiCaprio. Just to sort of navigate like you know his process and sort of touch on moments in his career, whether it was private life or public life. He's just a curious. He's a fascinating human being. You don't know too
Mhm.
much about him except for what he shows you.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
the last of the movie star era that we'll ever kind of see. That mystery, that it just doesn't
Mhm.
exist anymore. Now we have, and again, this is another conversation. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. I think times have changed. I think people want to see
Yeah.
and learn more about their favorite artists, and I think it's important to connect to those who support us. So, so yeah, but again, it kind of kills that mystery. But I don't know. It's another conversation.
Yeah. But I feel that especially because of social media, we see a lot more of the actors that we admire
Mhm.
because they're choosing to share it. It's not
Yeah,
like, TMZ, look what we found out. It's like, no, they're choosing to
exactly.
express this and connect with you. I feel like no one's
Yep.
ever told Leonardo DiCaprio like, "Oh my God, I see myself in you." No. But they say that with young actors
Yeah,
now because they're like, "Oh my
yeah,
God, we grew up in a similar area. Our families
yeah.
are so, it's like we can connect more with the actors that are out there today. If no one's told Pacino like, same thing. Like, man, I see so much of myself in you. It's like it is another era. It's like where we
I thought
have
Al
these movie
Pacino
stars on a
was. I thought
pedestal. Yeah.
I thought Al Pacino was Cuban. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, no.
But
I
what
love
an
that
era
movie.
that was of,
I love Scarface. Such a good
yeah.
movie. Freaking Oliver Stone. He's such a great director. Yeah.
What special skill on your resume would people be surprised to learn about?
Uh, I don't know if I don't know. I'm an open book. You
Like,
know,
do you sing?
I
Do you dance? Things that you haven't done yet on screen that
I
you
don't
can
I don't
do?
know. I truthfully I don't know if I can sing. I'm actually
Everybody
going to
can sing.
record.
That's my
That's what
opinion.
everyone keeps saying that. So I'm actually I'm trying to work with this director, and she does a lot of musical stuff. And I'm actually going to the studio next week to record a song because we were having a conversation. She's like, "Well, can you sing?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know." I was like, "Let me find out." I was like, "I can send you video singing here, but let me make it again. Let me make it like a little movie." Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I could just film myself and that'd be fun. Yeah, I could do that and send that to you. But let me have fun with it. Let me
Yeah.
go to a studio. Let me get some production, a camera. Let me like dress up and all of that. Like I wanna I wanna have fun in this career as much as I wanna like be working, right? Like I
Mhm.
want this to be a fun process because otherwise it just becomes a hateful relationship with the work, whether it's an audition, whether it's reading scripts, memorization. Like, I want to have fun with that. And so anytime I'm like
Yeah.
memorizing anything, I go for a walk in nature. I'm just walking in the park, memorizing my lines because, why not? Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry. We're over here going on a rant.
What special skill in your resume would people be surprised to
Oh,
learn about?
yeah. Mucha gente piensa que yo no puedo hablar español. Mucha gente siempre
Hmm.
me está diciendo que oh, tú eres un no sabo kid. Y mira,
Oh God.
voy a decir que mi español no es lo mejor. My Spanish isn't the best.
No es perfecto, yeah.
No es
Like
perfecto,
me either.
absolutamente.
Me either. I
No,
grew up in the States, Spanish is my first language technically because I didn't know English until I like
yeah,
started school at like 3 or 4,
yeah.
but it's still not it's not perfect. I don't sound like
No,
I
yeah, my
just
my
got
my
off.
my my
Yeah.
Spanish is not perfect, and we have to remember we live in the States, right? English is
Yeah.
the more dominant language, and especially in school, especially being Latino, especially I'm sure the same time that you were in elementary school and that I was in elementary school, speaking Spanish was looked down on. If you were Latin and you
Mm.
were Latino, whether you're Mexican or Salvadorian, wherever you're from, if you were speaking Spanish, it was almost looked down on. And I remember that feeling being a little kid, and I was like, I hate this feeling. I hate being looked down on. I hate feeling less than. So now that I'm on the big screen, I'm doing all these things. I'm always telling everybody, soy mexicano, soy ecuatoriano. I'm American, yes. I'm proud to be all three, obviously, right? Um, but I'm proud of my roots. I'm proud of my ancestors. And when I can't speak Spanish, I will speak Spanish. And excuse me if it's not perfect. But I'm proud to be Latin, and that's sort of that's something that I incorporated into Bad Hombres, the new movie. I
Yeah.
Originally the film was in broken English. All of it was in broken English. I read it. I told the director, I was like, "Yeah, it's a nice script. I like it a lot. It's exciting. It kept me on the edge of my seat. But why am I speaking in broken English?" I was like,
Mhm.
I should be speaking in Spanish. This guy speaks in Spanish. He's Ecuadorian, he's Latin, like, and the other character opposite of him, Hemky Madera, who plays Alfonso in the movie, he's also Latin. He comes from a Latin country. So these characters should be speaking in Spanish? With the
Yeah.
Americans in the movie, yes, they can speak in broken English, but amongst themselves in private, they
Right.
should be speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the audience sees that. And again, my Spanish isn't perfect. My apologies in advance, but but I did do my homework. I did study. I had my dad on set there with me, calling me out on my BS, and I'm excited. I will say this: speaking in Spanish helps an actor if you have a second language. Speaking your second language for the craft because it helps you get out of your head. I feel like in
Yeah.
English we're so worried about how we sound and talk and enunciate. In Spanish, it's all about the soul. It's all about the
Yeah.
heart, the feeling, and connecting, and the intent. So, hopefully, the people will see that on screen in January 2023. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
And our last question, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Ooh, great question. 10 words or less. Uh, 10 words or less, man. Uh, do your homework and never give up. I mean, that's very
Awesome.
vague, but or join the actors campus, and that way I could go into like 1,000 words or less. But yeah, just do your homework, do your research, and ponte pilas, and
Yeah. Ponte las
you,
pilas. God, I grew up hearing that so
yeah,
much.
yeah. But now it's like
No
always in
seas
my head,
vago,
right?
ponte las pilas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Make a plan. Listen, it's 2024. Hit specific goals, hit specific deadlines, hit specific, create things that you can move. Don't just be an actor, be a writer, be a producer. Because once you open up the doors and you're more than just an actor auditioning and you're a writer, you have a podcast, you have a platform, you have this, you have that, then the value you're bringing is just tenfold. It's more than just an actor trying to get a job, but rather it's, oh shit, this person does all this and he acts. He's a great human being. He does all this stuff. I want to work with this guy. So just, make a plan for 2024. It's coming. And hit deadlines, hit goals, and stay disciplined and stay on the right track and stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Awesome. Diego, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time today. Such a pleasure chatting with you. And for talking about, so many different things, the obstacles and the lessons you've learned, and for sharing so much knowledge. And yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. And everyone listening, Bad Hombres is in theaters and on demand on January 26th. You can see Diego and Knights of the Zodiac and On My Block, both streaming now on Netflix. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to Actors with Issues on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and visit our YouTube channel for full video interviews. Actors with Issues is executive produced and hosted by Hawani Allah. See you next time.